We just wrapped up a historic event for this wrestling company. New champions are among us, and we are starting to see a lot of movement around us in the wrestling industry. Not to mention, the Frank Norris Memorial event is right around the corner and sure to carry some drama. Can another big signing bring this company into prosperity? Welcome back everyone, here we are ready to go for more Wrestling Association of the Wham. We just finished up the spectacle of amazing grapples, and that was a big night. We saw both champions be crowned. The winner of the 4th Derby, Sebastian Morales, has been crowned and is the new heavyweight champion, unseating Neil Allman in a clean victory. And Sebastian Morales, now an international star, as he is a big part of Viva La Lucha. But we also can't forget about Joel Cartwright, alongside Albie Dewberry, put together the greatest match in Wham history as he became the junior heavyweight champion. So we've got some big things that are going to happen in this episode, and we're going to start off with some roster management. First of all, we're going to renegotiate our contract with Kyson Mays. Now, he has been kind of that mid-tier level in the junior heavyweight. He's built himself up to be a formidable potential contender, but not championship material. We're going to part ways with Mr. Kyson Mays, as he does have a troublemaker personality which has a negative impact on our locker room. So we're just going to renegotiate a 1-month, 1-appearance contract. I expect him to accept it, but the reason for that is because I've got my eyes on a few big free agents. And free agents are not the correct term because they are employed with another company. But you can see here, Elijah Mays and Emilio Suarez have both left the SPW, and that is a monumental roster shift. Elijah Mays, let's check these guys out here. Elijah Mays, 58 popularity at the least in all of the American territories, as well as some global popularity as well. He's got fantastic fundamental and physical abilities. He's an MMA fighter, so he's popped in and out of the business for a while. But for whatever reason, he has left SPW and now he's working with CWB. We are going to send Mr. Elijah Mays a 1-year contract. He's not happy with 15%, so we're going 25%. Still not happy. He wants 30% for merchandise. That's fine by me. I think our merchandise level is so small that it actually doesn't even matter yet. But we're going to go ahead and send this offer. And that is not the only offer that we're going to send, because Emilio Suarez, the brother of Gabriela Suarez and the owner of Viva La Lucha, in fact, he's also another phenomenal competitor, and he's also going to receive a contract from us. And Diego Bergen actually hates this idea, as Diego Bergen and Emilio Suarez actually had a falling out, and that is how Diego Bergen became a free agent, ultimately leaving Viva La Lucha and coming to the Wham. Gabriela Suarez, however, thinks this is an excellent idea, so those two will kind of nullify one another, and we're going to go ahead and proceed and send him a 1-year contract. And in more interesting news, Alexander Keith was once again released by SPW and CWB, as he was once again involved in a drug smuggling scandal. That is crazy. This man is just a magnet for nefarious acts, and he does not like the Wham. He still very much remembers that he had an awful time here at the Wrestling Association of the Mid-South, so Alexander Keith does not want to sign with us, which is honestly fine by me. And if Emilio Suarez doesn't work out, I've also got my eye on Hermenegildo Ramirez. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but that is I'm proud of myself for getting as far as I did. He's got pretty dang good physical abilities as well. He's a free agent now. He does live in Mexico, so we would be paying some travel, and we would be hoping that he decides to relocate. But he is someone on our short list. I don't want to build up a huge bill of travel expenses, but we are going to take our chances, as we had a pretty good success rate with free agents moving over to our local area. But there's a lot of names on my short list that I've been looking at. The talent is getting deeper as we progress. Just taking a look at a couple guys that you might see on the Wham in the future. Alexander Huff. He's got phenomenal performance abilities. Not the greatest in the ring, but again, those performance abilities are really nice. Same with Alonzo Katz. He's got an egomaniac personality, but again, it seems this man is money on the mic. Black Demon, a man that had falling out in Japan, and he also has pretty solid abilities, but fantastic performance, 90 charisma and microphone. Another junior heavyweight, Chris Brownfield, irrepressible personality, more stellar performance abilities. Oscar Kohler, big dude, 6'7", 316, pretty decent fundamental and physicals, solid performance, and not the worst primaries. And honestly, I've got to restrain myself from bloating the roster too much because we do have 35 workers on our payroll at the moment and only an hour of competition each month, so we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. And honestly, with the addition of the Wellington brothers, they have started to cramp up some of the room as well, but that is the challenge that we've laid upon ourselves. And with everything out of the way, we are ready to get into the Amazing Grappling Spectacle 49. Pretty uneventful as we prepped for the show, however we did manage to upset Randy Edson pretty well. But we will get into our pre-show match, Christopher Hartwell and Diego Berrigan. Christopher Hartwell picks up the victory, the junior heavyweight picking up a victory against a heavyweight here in the pre-show. Segment rating of 32, Christopher Hartwell had a performance of 39, and Diego Berrigan had a performance of 35. It is worth noting that Christopher Hartwell is the FNP heavyweight champion, so Hartwell can hang with the heavyweights, that's for sure. And we see here that Berrigan and Christopher Hartwell actually have good chemistry, so that is something to keep mind of as we move forward. However, given their trajectory, we may not see them clashing a ton on the main show when the stories actually matter a little bit more. We've got a segment to open up our show. Unfortunately, Levi Andrews struggled when going off script in this one. He's actually got really good performance stats, so this one just seemed to be a one-off and unfortunate outcome. But regardless, Levi Andrews opens up the show in the ring and once again talking down to the fans. Levi Andrews begins to reflect on his time as the owner of the WHAM, accrediting himself for the accomplishments of others and highlighting his own championship reign. Not long into his promo, he would begin to highlight the shortcomings of other performers, in this instance specifically calling out Friedrich Herzog, labeling him as the biggest flop in the wrestling industry, citing his lack of championship accomplishments here in the WHAM. It wouldn't take long before Herzog made his way out to the ring, clearly unamused by Andrews' statements. Levi Andrews would quickly retreat, directing Blue Mage to deal with the angry giant. Blue Mage would step into the ring, and Levi Andrews would call for the bell. So this match between Friedrich Herzog and Blue Mage would begin kind of in an impromptu way. But we would see an in-ring performance of 32. Not too bad, crowd is white hot here. Blue Mage had an in-ring performance of 32 and Friedrich Herzog at 43. And Friedrich Herzog just continues to pick up victories and continues to show himself as a very formidable competitor. Moving on, next we have a triple threat, and you recognize these triple threat competitors as guys that all lost their contracts, and you would be right to an extent. However, this match was booked as one last chance to grant the winner the option to stay back in the WHAM, so we see Craig Bean coming out on top, but ultimately Charlie Thompson and John Wolf will be leaving the WHAM, losing their final chance to stay here on the roster. Moving into the next match, we've got Benson Sandy and Dean Grunge. Benson Sandy with an in-ring performance of 34 and Dean Grunge with an in-ring performance of 43. You can see here that Bryant Hines did some good work ringside. However, Bryant Hines came in to the match kind of late, acting as a bit of a distraction, but Benson Sandy was shooing him off. I didn't want to take him off and separate the managerial client just quite yet because I wanted that little boost to the segment rating. But the rift between Benson Sandy and Bryant Hines is very much apparent as Benson Sandy just kind of blew off his former manager in this match. But Dean Grunge with a really nice in-ring performance here of 43. Altogether they get a segment rating of 37 and we are ready to move on. Woodrow Gunter taking on a 1-on-3 handicap match against the Wellington Boys plus Black Bull. Woodrow Gunter just had an in-ring performance of 31. He was really off his game. Black Bull at 32, Chuck Wellington 24, and Angus Wellington at 13. We see a little bit of development as Bronson Fraley would come in and attack Black Bull, and Black Bull would then be separated from the Wellington Boys, leaving two very unaccomplished wrestlers in the ring alone with a rather accomplished wrestler, and Woodrow Gunter's able to take advantage and secure the victory here. Then we move on into our main event, and we get a great match with a great performance. Unfortunately, half of the competitors were really off of their game here, but all in all, we had Joel Cartwright and Sebastian Morales, the new champions, in a tag team match against the former champions, Neil Allman and Albie Dewberry. We would see the new champions pick up the victory after the heavyweight champion pinned the former junior heavyweight champion. We wanted these boys to steal the show, and they got a segment rating of 47, which is a really nice number. Sebastian Morales with an in-ring performance of 59, while his partner Joel Cartwright over there at 49, and then Neil Allman 45 and Albie Dewberry at 47. So really, we just wanted to put some good in-ring competitors in the ring with one another and see what kind of ratings we would get out of it. And obviously, it worked out pretty well with a segment rating of 47. And then we have a segment to end the night with a segment rating of 42, as Neil Allman notions that he will be coming for his rematch for the heavyweight championship following his loss, making his intentions clear to the new champion Sebastian Morales. So just a little bit of post-match tension to remind the new heavyweight champion that he has got a target on his back. Segment rating of 42, so not a bad way to end out the show. Altogether, we get a show rating of 42, and that is right in the range of where we want to be, or where we expect ourselves to be, I should say. So we had a few things fall flat. Of course, anytime we feature the Wellingtons, they are just not going to score well. Benson Sandy and Dean Grunge had a nice match, but other than that, we just get some story progression with Friedrich Herzog and Levi Andrews. Otherwise, a pretty standard show. We profit $200 after ticket sales of $1,232, and we stay at 23 popularity. And Emilio Suarez, El Espiritu, has accepted the contract to come over to the WAM. We will have to be paying a little bit extra travel, so we'll have to be mindful of that. However, that is a huge signing. We're still waiting on the decision from Elijah Mays. And the next thing that we've got to address, while I am happy that we can run some development drills to improve some traits, Woodrow Gunter is just killing the morale of the locker room by having an awful atmosphere at those training drills. So we are going to remove him as head men's trainer, and he is going to go from pleased to irritated. However, one thing that we do have is a creative idea specific to Woodrow Gunter. It's a safe bet, and I really hope it does not fail. And it was a success. He's still irritated, but that does lift his momentum a little bit. Not necessarily what we're going for with the momentum, but it's better than nothing. I decided to play around a little bit with some gimmicks. We're going to change around the gimmick of Fumihiko Onoda. We applied the World's Strongest Man gimmick to Friedrich Herzog, and the El Espiritu gimmick to Emilio Suarez. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to renegotiate the contract of Kamari Bryant. While it is never a bad thing to have multiple good referees, and we really just made a fuss about not having any referees for the longest time, we are going to let him walk because we are walking a fine line with our financial statement, so we don't want to employ multiple refs on accident and pay extra workers that we don't necessarily need to. We're also going to change the gimmick of Neil Allman as well. We're just going to go with a familiar fan favorite. It's fairly unique to Neil Allman because he has been building a rapport with the fans, so we're going to confirm that. We're going to add a gimmick idea as well. It's a near certainty, and hopefully this will work out better than his current gimmick. And Randy Edson is pretty upset with us, so we're going to give him a creative idea, and if this fails, this might cause him to walk out of the company. It was a success, so we don't have to worry about that right now. He is still rather annoyed. And in a whole bunch of big news, we've got Elijah Mays coming into the WAM, and that is huge. We've also got Craig Bean accepting his contract extension, and Kamari Bryant will also be leaving the WAM here in just about a month. We also see John Wolfe has officially left the WAM, while Charlie Thompson and Kyson Mays will be gone in just 30 days as well. And Levi Andrews has been offered a part in a major movie and will leave to begin filming in 3 months. So Levi Andrews, the movie star that he is, he will be leaving the WAM here, and it's not the first time that he has left the wrestling industry to go make some movies. So we've got him for 3 more shows. He will last through the Frank Norris Memorial Show, reluctantly, but at least he's not leaving abruptly and right away, because he is ingrained in a storyline that just started. Getting into our pre-show locker room incidents, Christopher Hartwell is causing drama with Albie Dewberry by spreading rumors. We will fine Christopher Hartwell. Christopher Hartwell is annoyed at this action, but Albie Dewberry is pleased, so we'll take that. Kyson May's gotten a lot of heat. We're going to fine him. He's going to be gone soon anyway. I don't care that he's unhappy. August Washburn came to us with a gimmick idea. Chuck Wellington was brought to the wrestler's court, and that's all we got for this evening. We are going to go with the hardline stance and just hope Randy Edson or someone else does not walk out on us. Nobody chose to walk out. Alright, we'll take that. We will take the slight positive bump in morale for the backstage locker room. But with all other incidents aside, we are ready to get into the show, the Amazing Grappling Spectacle 50, the 50th installment. We are halfway to 100, and we've got a heavyweight championship match in store tonight. But first, a pre-show match between Diego Bergen and Benson Sandy. Benson Sandy continuing to show that more focused attitude. However, Diego Bergen is the one to come out on top here. Benson Sandy being the one with the higher in-ring performance at 39, while Diego Bergen is down at 25. Segment rating of 31 for this pre-show match. Starting off our night, Elijah Mays, the biggest acquisition for the Wham, arguably so far. Levi Andrews opens up the show, looking confident as ever. Levi Andrews would then comment on the confrontation from last month, recapping his issues with Friedrich Herzog, but states that those have been rectified. Levi Andrews claims that all he had to do was pull a few strings, and Herzog and Andrews were quickly able to see eye to eye. To his surprise, Levi Andrews would be interrupted yet again, this time by Elijah Mays, who was making his debut appearance in the Wham, but is a nationally renowned MMA fighter. Elijah Mays and Levi Andrews would recap a brief history with one another, and Elijah Mays didn't mince words when he expressed his disdain for Levi Andrews. Being here has been great so far, until I picked up the unmistakable scent of human garbage that is Levi Andrews. So Elijah Mays making a big splash in his debut, getting into some beef with Levi Andrews, and given the cinematic ventures of Levi Andrews in just 3 months, we had to make a quick pivot with that story that we were going to build with Friedrich Herzog, and we're going to steer away from that for a little bit for now. Now we've gotten Elijah Mays and Levi Andrews angle. Segment rating of 59, and a great way to start the show. And our in-ring action starts up with Bronson Fraley and Woodrow Gunter. Bronson Fraley picking up the victory as these two put a segment rating of 31 together. Fraley at 35 and Gunter at 28, and this match was created as Bronson Fraley disrupted Woodrow Gunter's match with the Wellington boys, so the Wellingtons used their influence to put these two together, as Woodrow Gunter was able to benefit from Fraley's interference last month, so they go head to head. Fraley comes out on top with an okay match. But we get a segment to follow as Angus Wellington, Black Bull, as the Wellington brothers and Black Bull, the Welling dynasty, launch an attack on both Fraley and Gunter after the match. Once the Wellington brothers gained control, they specifically held Bronson Fraley up to receive more damage from Black Bull, egging on the muscle of the group to cause as much damage as possible to his former ally. Honestly, I'm not sure if egging up, if I spelled that word correctly, but we're just gonna roll with it. Please forgive me if not. Segment rating of 27, and this actually is probably the highest rating that we've seen from the Wellington boys so far. And we get another great match, segment rating of 49, as we get more tag team action from the junior heavyweights, Emilio Suarez and Joe Cartwright picking up a victory over Christopher Hartwell and Albie Dewberry, as Emilio Suarez in his debut pinned Christopher Hartwell. Now in story, Wayne Blankenship probably would have been the better tag team partner for Hartwell, as they're kind of more of the heels, and Albie Dewberry just teamed with Joe Cartwright last month. However, I knew Dewberry was going to get us the better performance, so we went with Dewberry, and you could see here that he had an in-ring performance of 55, the highest of the bunch. Emilio Suarez, the brother of Joe Cartwright's manager, Gabriela Suarez, is the main reason for this pairing, as Gabriela Suarez has been reunited with her brother, and it seemed to work out well as Emilio Suarez and Joe Cartwright showed excellent chemistry teaming together as well. So, phenomenal numbers across the board, a whole lot of green, and a segment rating of 49 to keep us moving. Our main event of the evening, the heavyweight championship, was on the line, though these notes wouldn't necessarily show you. we had Neil Allman going one-on-one with Sebastian Morales. However, Neil Allman was attacked by Friedrich Herzog, causing a disqualification and a no contest, meaning that this match was all for naught, Friedrich Herzog making a huge impact in the main event as he took down both the challenger and the champion. But you'd see here Sebastian Morales with an in-ring performance of 48 and Neil Allman with an in-ring performance of 33, altogether a segment rating of 40 after the German Giant comes in and interferes. And fortunately, Neil Allman's gimmick change has got a better rating than it had before. But moving on. Our show ends with Friedrich Herzog standing tall over the carnage and destruction that he has brought to the main event, making it unmistakably clear that he intends on taking the heavyweight championship. Segment rating of 43 to end out the night, and I'm feeling good about the 50th edition of the amazing grappling spectacle. Yes sir, we get an overall rating of 44, one of our best shows ever, and from top to bottom, we had some good numbers to the exception of our Wellington segment, which that is to be expected a little bit. But we had a dramatic ending to our main event. We had a big debut for both Emilio Suarez as well as Elijah Mays, setting up some future stories right away. We're still profiting $144 from this show despite spending $935 on our workers, so we do manage to profit after paying for that travel of Emilio Suarez. And as you can see here, we got a couple final notices that Charlie Thompson, Kaisen Mays, and Fumihiko Onoda are all gone from the WAM. Now Fumihiko Onoda, this is a guy I'm going to keep an eye on, because he's probably going to be coming back here to the WAM. But right now, our junior heavyweight division is pretty stacked, but this guy has got really good physical traits and pretty good fundamentals as well. Excellent basics. And while he hasn't been able to put it together really in the ring, I am not giving up hope on him, but I also don't want to keep him on the roster when I'm not using him. I want to try to keep a smaller roster and then have the freedom and ability to expand as needed rather than feel like I'm pushing my limits. Diego Bergen's morale issues from us signing Emilio Suarez has inflated his morale to angry. So we're going to try a creative idea and see if we can alleviate this issue at all. It was a failure. That's not going to help at all. Now he's probably very angry. Now we might have to give some kind of monetary incentive as well. Let's try another. It's a safe bet, but the last one had a high likelihood as well. Let's try it. This one was a success. He's still angry, of course, not surprising there. We're going to try to give him a bonus of $100. He's still angry. I don't want to go crazy with the money, and quite frankly, I would love to not lose Diego Bergen, but at the same time, he has been trending rather downward, but that might be because of his morale. We're going to see what happens and just hope he doesn't decide to leave. Thanks to the creative meeting, we're going to be able to buy some character ideas, which will hopefully translate to a better morale for Diego Bergen. We got a likely to succeed, a safe bet for Joel Cartwright, and a safe bet for Neil Allman. So we get one that we can apply to Diego Bergen. So hopefully that helps. And we got Woodrow Gunter coming in clutch as he set up a pancake station and started cooking for everyone who wanted them, lifting the backstage morale. And then Angus Wellington spreading rumors about Bronson Fraley. We're going to give him a slap on the wrist. Granted, we have not been taking any action on him so far, but even the father would not want his child to be spreading rumors about one of his top tier talent. And that's it. I love that our locker room incidents are not as big of a deal as they used to be. And these two strongly dislike one another, so we're going to try a positive metal. I don't think it's going to work, but you never know. But what I can say is that we've got a big night ahead of us, the Amazing Grappling Spectacle 51. And we started off with a pre-show match between Diego Bergen and Dean Grunge, and Diego Bergen gets it done, and Dean Grunge again turns in a nice in-ring performance of 44. That elite brawling stat is starting to come through for Mr. Dean Grunge, and he's starting to turn in some nice performances, while Diego Bergen may have played us for a fool after securing a spot here on the WAM is starting to dip down with his in-ring performances, though I've got to believe that is largely in part due to his poor morale and angry status. And you can see if we go to the dirt sheet here that Diego Bergen was penalized for a low morale, so I imagine that it's got to have something to do with that, but overall we get a segment rating of 33. Our show kicks off with Benson Sandy going one-on-one with Craig Bean, and again, The victor is the one with the lower in-ring performance, as Craig Bean turned in an in-ring performance of 45, and this man, despite having his future being in jeopardy for a little while, is really turning into a consistent and solid worker, so shout out Mr. Craig Bean there. But Benson Sandy continues to pick up a few more victories, only had an in-ring performance of 34 here. You'd hope to see something better if he's going to receive some kind of push, but we do get a segment rating of 37. Moving on into our next match, we had a 2-on-4 handicap tag team match where Bronson Fraley and Woodrow Gunter come out on top and defeat the Wellington Dynasty, Angus, Chuck, Duke, and Black Bull in a handicap match, and Bronson Fraley was able to get his hands on Angus Wellington, deliver a full Nelson Slam, and collect the pinfall. Now, nobody really shined or stood out here, as Woodrow Gunter and Bronson Fraley both only had an in-ring performance of 38, Black Bull was up there with a 37, and the Wellington brothers, Duke at 26, Chuck at 24, and Angus down there at 15. So we do see a little bit of storyline development as Bronson Fraley stands tall against the Wellington boys as his problems continue, and ultimately this is heading for a one-on-one clash between Fraley and Black Bull at the Frank Norris Memorial Show. But all in all, we just get a segment rating of 26, and we do move on into a nice segment as Junior Heavyweight Champion Joel Cartwright, accompanied by Gabriela Suarez, makes his way to the ringside spectator area to get a first-hand glimpse of the number one contenders match that is about to take place. So pretty basic, we just get the presence of the champion ahead of this at ringside ahead of this next match. And that next match is Albie Dewberry, Emilio Suarez, and Christopher Hartwell in a triple threat match. And Emilio Suarez would be the one to come out on top. And the junior heavyweights are known for putting on great performances, and they put on another here. Albie Dewberry, of course, the class of the contest, with an in-ring performance of 57, Emilio Suarez at 46, and Christopher Hartwell down there at 31. You'd like to see something better from Christopher Hartwell, but I got faith that the man can turn it around. Overall, good numbers and a good performance from our junior heavyweights. Once again, like I've already said, segment rating of 41, and we will see Emilio Suarez and Joel Cartwright duking it out for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Our next segment has got Levi Andrews in the ring ahead of the main event. Andrews takes a moment to confirm his coming absence as he will venture off to take part in shooting a movie. In addition, Levi Andrews sets the stage for the main event, and Andrews promises that the crowd will be amazed by the powerful team that he has put together this evening. Just a little bit of mic work by Levi Andrews gets us a segment rating of 48. And that team that he put together is Friedrich Herzog, teaming alongside Lights Camera Action, Blue Mage, JP Cromwell, and Levi Andrews at ringside. And it was an incredibly shocking scene. However, the heavyweight champion Sebastian Morales would still come out on top, pinning Blue Mage. So even with the addition of Friedrich Herzog, the heavyweight champion, the former champion, and the new face Elijah Mays came out on top. And we would see some good numbers here from the champion side, as Sebastian Morales 55, Elijah Mays 50, Neil Allman 45, Friedrich Herzog 49, Blue Mage 32, and JP Cromwell 23. So a strong main event to close us out, and although the heavyweight champion picks up the victory, Friedrich Herzog does not let that be the end of the night. And as the night came to a close, clear tension was brewing between Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales, despite their cooperation in the tag team match. The two would make comments to one another, though nobody could hear what was said. Neil Allman gestures a belt around his waist before leaving the ring, while Sebastian Morales holds up the real thing. Segment rating of 44 to end our night, and we finish off the show with an overall rating of 43. So Friedrich Herzog joins the dark side of Lights Camera Action and Levi Andrews. Things didn't exactly go to plan, as Friedrich Herzog ended up taking the L thanks to Blue Mage eating the pin. But we did set up a junior heavyweight championship match, and Bronson Fraley's issues with the Wellington Dynasty continue. We're going to praise Diego Bergen and Elijah Mays, and we'd pick up $222 after this show. So we've got a consistent string of, I believe it is 3 shows where we're profiting, and you'd love to see it. And now that we're out of the show, we're going to try to use that creative idea on Diego Bergen. It is likely to succeed. Hopefully this one does not fail. It was a success that is actually super relieving. Probably more so than it should be. He's got warm momentum now, but the man is still angry. Now, given that our next show is in fact the Frank Norris Memorial Show, I made a few different signings. I brought in some veterans to the WAM, Yavraj Tanel, Jamari Meese, and Saita Kuroki. All are gentlemen who have favorable opinions of Frank Norris and wanted to be a part of this show in canon at least. So we brought all 3 of these guys on. Yavraj Tanel being someone who walked out on SPW and currently to this day does not like Don Loomis. So he and Frank Norris were really able to bond through that mutual hatred of Don Loomis. Jamari Meese was first thrust into the main event scene by Frank Norris, despite being later denounced during a performance anyway. So Jamari Meese, despite being a selfish person, wanted to pay it forward and show some love for Frank Norris. And Saita Kuroki is actually retiring in less than 3 months, so I wanted to pick him up one more time. This will be his 3rd stint with the WAM. And all of these contracts are just 1 appearance contracts for the Frank Norris Memorial Show, and we're going to get one last appearance from Saita Kuroki, the big man, and one of the original members of the database, and someone that you would see if you were to download this mod and play it yourself. So we got a few names that we brought on to just add a little bit of excitement to this next event. As we got a big piece of news here, as Levi Andrews, not only is he going to shoot a movie, but he's also announcing that he'll be retiring from active competition in 3 months. So we gotta make our last days of Levi Andrews worthwhile. It is now time for the Frank Norris Memorial event, the 2nd ever Frank Norris tribute show. We've got 123 people here to pay respects to the man who founded the WAM, and we are going to open up the night, no pre-show matches, just getting right into a segment with Albie Dewberry as he opens the show by taking a moment to remember Frank Norris and the early history of the WAM. It was a rough time with some very poor ratings and very poor numbers. However, Frank Norris stuck by these men and swore that it was going to get better, and that it did. Nice little segment rating of 39 to get us started. Our first match of the evening, no story behind this one, just Saita Kuroki coming back to the WAM to get one more match before his retirement and pay a little bit of respect to Frank Norris in the process, working against Woodrow Gunter and putting him over as Woodrow Gunter picks up the victory. While he hasn't had a ton of direction here on his time in the WAM, he has been picking up quite a few W's and making a case for being a contender, regardless if he has the best in-ring performances in the company or not. But we get a segment rating of 31. Woodrow Gunter did seem off his game here, but not a terrible match to get us started. However, this match is not any better. However, that's not super surprising given the fact that we got the Wellington boys here. However, they win the newly implemented tag team championships that their father decided would be a great idea to bring into the company. New tag team champions, Angus and Chuck Wellington, and we could not make the match a 2-on-3 match, but Duke Wellington was basically the 3rd man on this team, and he had his hand in on this match. And we would see Yavraj Tanel, the T-Man, and Jamari Meese, if I'm not mistaken, the finalist in the first Derby that lost to Bronson Fraley in the very last round. Just a couple of throwbacks and very familiar names with Frank Norris that wanted to do their part as well. Tanel with an in-ring performance at 26, Jamari Meese at 38, Chuck Wellington at 28, I think that's the best performance we've seen from him so far, and Angus Welling at 15. So of course Angus will never be a good performer, but Chuck Wellington may just start to improve and peak into the 30s and become somewhat of a formidable competitor. But nonetheless, the very first WAM Tag Team Champions are 2 awful workers in Angus and Chuck Wellington. Moving on into our next match, we see Elijah Mays beating the brakes off of Levi Andrews, getting his hands on Levi Andrews, making him submit with a guillotine choke, putting up a nice in-ring performance of 52 on the part of Elijah Mays. Levi Andrews had an in-ring performance of 36, and all in all they get a segment rating of 40. And we don't have it written down here, but Elijah Mays would beat Levi Andrews so bad that this would be the final match that Levi Andrews would ever take in his career. Not only because he was going to be written off of the show for his movie, but he decides to retire shortly after this. And Levi Andrews, his bodyguards were present. They just could not act fast enough, just in a demonstration of the threat that is Elijah Mays, in a really powerful performance. But we're not done there. Another match with a lot of drama behind it. Black Bull, Bronson Fraley. These two once allies are being put head to head to go one-on-one, mano-a-mano with one another, and Black Bull was a little conflicted, but he has got to follow the orders of those that have finally accepted him. Black Bull has been searching and searching for years, ever since Frank Norris has passed, for someone to truly accept him, and the Wellingtons have done that. However, Bronson Fraley doesn't see it that way. These two would go to battle with one another. Black Bull with an in-ring performance of 32, Bronson Fraley with an in-ring performance of 40, and all in all these two would put together a segment rating of 35, and Bronson Fraley would stand tall in this exchange, getting the one-up on his former ally. And the crowd's at white hot, so we're having a good event so far, and it's only going to get better as we have a superb, phenomenal rating of 54 with Emilio Suarez and Joel Cartwright going head-to-head, butting heads for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, and Emilio Suarez, in shocking fashion, would actually defeat Joel Cartwright, largely in part due to an interference from Gabriela Suarez. Now, we didn't have a lot of segments highlighting it, but there would be a little bit of unease. Gabriela Suarez would have to reassure that Joel Cartwright that while Emilio is her brother, Joel Cartwright is her client. And despite her reassurance, she would ultimately end up turning her back on Joel Cartwright and aligning with her brother, and Emilio Suarez, the new masked luchador of the Wham, has now become the Junior Heavyweight Champion. And given Joel Cartwright's dominance and fantastic performances, you really would have thought that he was going to have a longer reign with the championship. However, his reign only lasted about 2 to 3 months or so. We'd have to look up the specific numbers later on. Shocking turn of events here at the Frank Norris Tribute Show. And following that big match, Gabriela and Emilio Suarez rejoice as they revel in their less than honorable tactics to bring the Junior Heavyweight Championship to their family. Segment rating of 39, and you would like to see some better numbers here, but I ain't mad at it after that absolute banger that they were just a part of. And now our main event match of the night, segment rating of 45, a big heavyweight championship match and another title change of the night. Friedrich Herzog defeats Neil Allman and Sebastian Morales after Friedrich Herzog pins Sebastian Morales, winning the Wham Heavyweight Championship. We have seen 3 new champions crowned this evening at the Frank Norris Tribute Show, and this match was another big match. Sebastian Morales with an in-ring performance of 55, Neil Allman at 49, and Friedrich Herzog at 51. So everybody delivered when they needed to. All in all, we get a segment rating of 45, and we finally see the German Giant take home the big one. As you can see at this post-match celebration, Friedrich Herzog has basically aligned himself with lights, camera, action. We were going to have Levi Andrews stay as a managerial role, but with his career in question, we're going to see just what happens with that. However, Friedrich Herzog is your new heavyweight champion, and he has enlisted 2 more giant large men in Blue Mage and JP Cromwell, and after their match, they celebrate the championship win, and they send a frightening message to the rest of the locker room. Segment rating of 35 to end it off, but the final matches of the night really delivered. And you can see that as this show gets an overall rating of 45. We're going to praise our now former champions Sebastian Morales and Joel Cartwright for 2 great performances, and we pick up just under $300 from this show. But most importantly, our popularity grows from 23 to 24. And as the Frank Norris tribute show comes to an end, Jamari Me, Saita Kuroki, and Yavraj Tanel all make their exits from the WAM once more. And this was another huge episode and another huge development in our journey in this TEW IX save on this Effganic Genesis mod. But that's going to be our stopping point here. Huge shout out to all the real ones on Patreon. You guys are awesome and your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you to all the other Patreon members as well. And as for everyone else, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.